friendly neighborhood voiceover Laura, who's, realized that didn't record an intro for this video, so you're just getting my voiceover. I really need to start recording intros for my videos instead of not doing it and forgetting to do it and then realizing it's too late to do it. So here we are. Okay, so basically the inspiration for this was I was watching Kiki's delivery service and I noticed some really pretty aprons and I looked at them and went, I can probably make that. Turns out things are harder than they look, but we'll get to that later. So the first thing I did naturally was plan it out and draw a vague idea of what I wanted, which was to have straps on the side. I would also have straps on the top that come down and buttoned at the back, as you can see from this picture. And you're never gonna guess what I forgot to record. So I didn't record the bit where I cut it out, but what I did was cut out a large square for the bottom that I knew would fit around my waist and was the right length that I wanted it. In hindsight, what would be a better idea is to cut out what is called a trapezium, narrower on the top than it is on the bottom, but we learn these things. Anyway, I basically cut it out, then I pinned the waistband to the skirt, then you stitch them together. I also pinned the straps right sides together and stitch across the top and down the edge, but leaving a gap at the other end so that you can turn them out. Now, then I had the fun ordeal of turning them out, and there's a lot of useful tricks that you can actually that I should look into. Try and not have to struggle for hours on end trying to turn out this really long tube. I would definitely recommend using one of those. There's a lot of them. I knew I didn't want a thin apron. I wanted something with a bit of thickness to it because I didn't want, like, if I was painting in the apron or something, I didn't want it to like bleed through the apron and go onto my clothes underneath. The whole point of an apron is that it doesn't bleed through. It protects your clothes. So I made sure to cut a lining for this one. But quick disclaimer, I did this after the fact and after I'd stitched the edges of the apron, so it wasn't a perfect lining. We learn from these things. So yeah, after I stitched the straps, I had to press them, and I hate pressing things with a passion. It's not a fun time, but it's a necessary evil. For those who don't know, the purpose of pressing is you take an iron and you press it with the iron. I don't know how else to describe it. You press it down to make sure that it sits correctly on you when you're finished. So you can also use it to like curl up hems so they're easier to stitch and they're stitched correctly. But usually it's for, in this case, making sure that the straps are sitting properly. So then I pinned and stitched the skirt lining to the bottom to make it nice and thick with 3 seams. Now this made it really tricky to stitch over and to attach the pockets later. If you're gonna try this, bear that in mind. Maybe I did not use the best judgment for this, but it's fine. As I keep saying, we're learning. So then it was time to stitch up the top. I pinned it right sides together, and here's the important part. You put the straps inside so that when you turn it out, your straps are attached the right way around. So you fold the fabric over, you pin the straps to the edge that you will be stitching along. If you're unsure if you've pinned it correctly, what I always do as a general rule is I pin it and then I go to turn it out to make sure that it's the right way around, because the last thing you want to do is go back over it, is to have to go back over it with a seam ripper and then stitch it again. Of course, you know, I made this exact mistake of having to seam rip because I pinned the wrong sides together for my skirt for the bottom of the apron, but we're learning. But yeah, after that, back to the iron to press and make sure it sits flat. Then you attach the top to the skirt, and again, this was a terrible way to go about things because I ended up just having to hand stitch it because I was contending with, like, the top was 2 layers of fabric and the skirt was 2 layers of fabric, and it was quite a thick fabric as well, so there was no way my machine would have been able to handle 4 layers of thick fabric. Yeah, so I also had to hand stitch the pocket, which was a bit of a pain, to be quite honest, and my hand stitching skills just aren't great. I ended up unpicking the pocket the first time because it was kind of wonky, and then re-stitching it, which was a lot of work. I hate hand stitching. Not as much as I hate pressing things, but I hate hand stitching. And here we have the finished product. It's pretty cute, and it has pockets. I ended up not actually stitching the buttons because it was just a bit too much effort, and just like I had spent so long with stitching and restitching the pockets and hand stitching the top bit that I kind of just wanted to leave it. I might eventually go back and stitch on the buttons, but for now it's okay the way it is. So what did we learn? I learned a lot. I learned that I really need to look at hacks for turning things out because, oh my god, those straps were too long. They were so long, and turning them out by hand was just I also need to think about the order in which I stitch things. You know, stitch the pocket on the front first before you stitch the lining on. Yeah, it was just a bit of a, you know, order of things is important sometimes. Also need to not forget to record bits. But that's just like a me kind of YouTube thing where it's like, oh my god, why did I not record this bit? I am silly. But like, also next time I'd use a pattern, or at least roughly draft a pattern before I go into cutting it out and stitching it together, because the skirt did end up being the wrong shape. So yeah, apparently patterns are actually important. But you know, all that being said, I am proud of my little apron and I'm glad I stuck with it. And yeah, that's all for this video for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my slow descent into madness. Let me know of any projects you're working on, and if you have anything you'd like to see me do, any ideas for future videos, I'd love to hear them in the comments, obviously. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.